Welcome everyone to another episode of Montgomery County, Maryland's Engage at Home, brought to you by the county's Caregiver Support Program. Our guest today is Theresa Robertson. Theresa and I are both on the Maryland Commission on Caregiving, and Theresa is a family caregiver, and I've asked her here today to share her experiences and some of her wisdom. Welcome, Theresa, and please tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Thank you, Lily. It's a pleasure to be here. Well, I'm many, many things. I'm a wife, a mother, a grandmother, an entrepreneur. I actually live in Maryland with my husband, Emmanuel. We're empty nesters now, and I love to sing songs with my grandchildren, especially like Head and Shoulders, Knees and Toes. That's one of our favorite songs. And I love learning new things, especially technology, and I love sharing that information with others. So I don't know if there's a word for that, but that's who I am, and I'm happy to be here.
Wonderful. And it's terrific to be with you, even though it's virtually.
Yes.
Let's start with your caregiving journey. Would you share with us how that began?
When I was 28 years old, my husband and I were newly married. We have had a young family, and his kidneys failed. He actually battled juvenile diabetes most of his life. And it's remarkable that he even lived as long as he did, because he was only about a year old when he was diagnosed at the age of 9. But there we were, this young family with small children, just making our way in the world when his kidneys failed. And suddenly I was, I found myself in a whole new life, with hospitals and doctors and nurses and medications. So we spent about a year with him in dialysis before he got his kidney pancreas transplant. Then he had problems with the first pancreas. He got another pancreas. Then they found a brain tumor that had to be removed. He lost his sight in his right eye. He lost his hearing in his right ear. He had multiple hospitalizations, during that time for various illnesses. Every time I would catch a cold, he would get pneumonia. Then he had 4 strokes. And the first three, were mild TIAs, but then the last one was really devastating for us. And so for 25 years, we've been in and out of hospitals. I would have to say probably hundreds of times we've been in the hospital. I mean, this year alone, we've been in the hospital 16 times. And so we've gone through it all. And I think and so that's one of the reasons why I'm excited to have this opportunity to talk to you, because I'm at a point in my life where I'm ready to share my story with others, to try to encourage and inspire and inform. There are a lot of things I've learned that I wish I knew when I first started. And I'm hoping we can talk a little bit about some of those things today.
Definitely. And thank you. You're a busy person. You have many balls in the air. So I really appreciate you making the time today. So there's been a lot of issues. Even this year, you've had so many issues. You've been a caregiver for about a quarter of a century. Um,
Yeah.
would
That
you
tells you how old I am.
um, would you mind just tapping onto some of those difficult issues that you've had to face?
One of the biggest challenges we've faced is managing the hospital system, learning how to be an advocate for my husband. That was one of the most challenging issues for me, because generally I consider myself to be mild mannered, and so I try not to be confrontational. No one likes confrontation, especially with someone you consider to be an authority, someone who you depend on for help, you know. But I've learned over the years that there are times where that's really my best response to what's going on. I have to remind myself that I have to fight. I have to fight to make sure that he gets the help that he needs, that he gets it in a timely manner, that I have to insist on good quality care and treatment for my husband. And it's not that the hospital system is broken or that these are bad people. Far from that. I do know that they get overwhelmed, and we've all heard the term, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. I don't try to push my way ahead of someone else. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying you have to keep your eye on what's happening. You have to drive the treatment forward. You have to be part of the conversation. It's not their job to figure out everything. They need your input and your guidance as you work together in partnership with your doctors to find the best form of treatment for your loved one.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That's really well put. So you obviously, as a caregiver, as a mum, as a grandma, you have a lot of times when you must be feeling overwhelmed. How do you manage
Oh
that?
my goodness. Yes. I think I live in that space sometimes. There are times when it can just be too much. It feels like it's just such a heavy weight. Um, one of the things I've learned is how to think on purpose, how to control how I feel based on what I'm actually thinking. So if when I'm doing it the way I should be, when I start to feel those feelings welling up in me, just to stop for a moment and ask myself, what am I thinking? What am I thinking that's making me feel the way that I am? And the reality could be that my situation could be, it could be dire. It could be stressful. It could be frightening. It could be a lot of things. That could be the reality of it, but it's really what I think about that. And I can give you an example. Um, Recently, maybe 2018, my husband's kidneys failed again after all those years of being without having to deal with dialysis. We found ourselves back on dialysis again. And my first thought was, I don't know if I can do this. It was really heartbreaking, and I had those moments and those thoughts. But then, right after that, I had to remind myself, and it didn't take long. We were fortunate. We had a kidney transplant, which was something that wasn't even really possible maybe, I don't know, 50 years ago. Some people never got a transplant, or they were on dialysis for years, or maybe they rejected it, and he had his transplant for 25 years. And we all those thoughts started to come into my consciousness about the things I should be grateful for. And then my feelings change about the situation I'm facing. And that's what I'm talking about. When it's really bad, I have to take out paper and pen and just start writing down all the things I'm thankful for, because I have so much to be grateful for. And yeah, like I said, even though you might be going through something that is feels unimaginable, you just don't know how you're going to make it. Just, I always encourage people to take a deep breath, because you don't realize how many times you're breathing, you have those shallow breaths, that brings up your heart rate and makes everything seem much worse than it is. Take a deep cleansing breath and try to think through the situation and think about how great, the things you can be grateful for. And I guarantee your thoughts will change and your feelings will also change.
Mm, thank you. That is clear, practical, proven advice. So thank you for sharing it.
Mhm.
So I can imagine that there are times when family and friends don't always get it. And in reality, what did you wish that the people who are around you, which are also around other people, what do you wish that they understood, a little bit better about your role as a caregiver?
Well, things have changed since we're all at home now, or since we've been kind of sheltered in our house. But I do remember for many years being frustrated because people didn't see me. They Every time they saw me, they just remembered that I was, they thought about my husband. And so the questions I would always hear is, how's Emmanuel doing? How's Emmanuel? No one asking, how are you doing? And I can't honestly say I would really want to think a lot about how I'm feeling, because, especially if we're going through something difficult, you feel like you're reliving the trauma over and over again. But it's a kind thing to do. I want to encourage everyone out there, if you have friends and family who are caring for someone else, remember to ask them how they're doing. Remember to not be, you don't have to be overwhelming. You don't have to make they have them, have these long conversations on the phone. You don't have to require a lot from them. You can just send a text. Some of the most wonderful things that happens to me is that people will send me a text message just saying, I'm praying for you, or just want you to know I'm thinking about you today. And I remember once I was in church, and my friend Lisa, when my children were little, she just walked up to me and gave me a hug and handed me a $25 gift card to Domino's. And all these years later, I still remember that. She didn't say a whole lot. She gave me something that meant I didn't have to cook dinner that night. I had one night that I could just order a pizza, and I could just not, has one less thing I had to do. And I still remember that today. And so that would be my advice. Find ways that you can make a difference without, because often people will say, tell me what I can do to help you. Well, that puts the responsibility on the caregiver to come up with this list and to get back to you and to try to figure it all out. You know, they don't have the emotional capacity, and most often they don't even know what they need. But nobody will be upset when you come by and cut their grass. And I had a friend who just came by, and one day I went outside and he was cutting our grass. It just blew me away, because those are the things that, you know, that's what we need. We need someone who can just step in and just do a little here, a little there. It makes a world of difference. It really does.
That is, I love that, because that's something that we hear all the time, that people say, what can I do for you? Where you're reminding people, you know, take it onto yourself. What can you do for others? And that means it's also more personalized.
It does. And, even if it's a small thing, I mean, you would just be surprised how much, what a difference it'll make in someone else's life. Um, I mean, if you're not sure what to do, call me. I can help you with that. I've been doing this a long time, so now I'm a lot better at explaining to people what I need, and my needs are a lot different today than they were years ago when I started down this road. We're empty nesters now, so it's just the two of us. I mean, we can share a sandwich. We don't need a meal. we take care of each other pretty well, and I'm home all the time. So, but back then, for sure. I mean, I really could have just needed people to step in and do any little thing, and I wouldn't have been upset about it.
Thank you. Sage advice from years of experience. Um, Theresa, I know that faith is really important in your life. And I think it would be wonderful if you could share really what is the influence of your faith on your caregiving experience.
Yeah, my faith is everything to me. I couldn't make it. I wouldn't have made it if it wasn't for my beliefs. My husband and I are both Christians, and we believe that our lives were created on purpose, that we're not here by chance. And because I believe my life has purpose, then I have to ask the question, what what am I supposed to do with this life? And I'm in a caregiving situation or a caregiving relationship with my husband, what does that mean? Um, it feels sometimes when you're in a situation and your loved one is fighting for their lives, as if sometimes you're being punished for something, like, how we didn't do anything. Why is this happening to us? People will ask that all the time. Where is God, and why is this happening to us? But I learned a couple of years ago, I think it was from something I read by Francis Chan. He said, what if your marriage was not about you? And so I started to think about that. And then I asked my husband and I had that conversation. What if our lives and this whole, our journey into caregiving and all the 25 years we spent together working through this, what if it wasn't for us? What if it wasn't about us? What if it was so that we could be a demonstration or demonstrate to others how to live this life? That you can go through difficult times and you can still stay married. That you can honor your vows in sickness and in health. That just because you're dealing with chronic illness doesn't mean you don't have fun. You don't play around and joke. And we actually think we have a much better marital relationship than most people I know, because one, we understand that life is short, so we have an appreciation for every day, and we don't have time to have petty arguments that go on forever. Now, when we were young and we had the energy, we probably spent a whole lot more time doing that than we should have. But today, No, we are just so grateful for every day and happy to spend time together. And it's the little things that give us joy. You know, we have all of that that's in our favor. And all of that is because of our faith. Even the idea that we can think on purpose, you know, because in the Bible it says that that we can take captive our thoughts to think on these things. And if I can think on these things, that means I can think on purpose. And so I did a lot of work to make sure that I knew how to think on purpose. I don't have to think this. I can actually think that instead. And again, as I shared earlier, what you think informs how you feel. So that's critical in my life. So yes,
Mm.
I know that everyone doesn't believe as I do, but I think that everybody needs something in their life that they can believe in that's bigger than they are. If I had to believe in just in only what I could do, I probably we'd have a different conversation today. You and I probably wouldn't even have a conversation at all. You wouldn't want to hear what I had to say.
Yeah, and thank you, because um, that idea of having something that is greater than you, and that your relationship with your husband is more than just you being married to him. It is something that is a bigger partnership, and it's a model. I really like that you shared that, because I think for many people that will resonate.
Yes, and I believe that I was created to be his wife. And so that's different from I have to take care of my husband. Instead, I think I get to take care of my husband. And it's a different mindset, right? And so I believe I was created for this. That means I have the ability to be able to do whatever I need to do to take care of my husband. And I get to do it from a place of gratitude. That doesn't mean every day I'm walking around singing songs and I'm all happy and go lucky. That's not what it means at all. But it means that when I do have those difficult days, what do? I take a deep breath and I remind myself that I was created for this.
Thank you. You mentioned earlier that you became a caregiver when you were a young sprite 28-year-old young woman with small kids. When you look back at that person, you know, these few years ago, many years ago, what would you say to that younger self?
Well, the first thing I would say, I would take her by the shoulders and tell her to listen to what I have to tell you quickly. Try not to be so strong. It's okay to admit that you can't do it all. It's okay to admit that you feel weak, and 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 it's okay to be angry. I remember very clearly being trying so hard not to be angry, not to be upset with the situation we were in. I didn't know what to do with those emotions. And so when you push them down, they start to redirect in really strange ways. And so, um, but get some help. Number one, find someone, a professional that you can talk to. I remember a coworker said to me, and this is going to be really shocking to you. I was at work and my husband had been in and out of the hospital, and I guess she thought she was helping me, and she said, "You know your husband's going to die, don't you?" She actually said that. I wish I knew where she was today, because that was 25 years ago, and he's in the living room watching Bonanza. But she said, "You know your husband's going to die, don't you?" And I said, "Yeah, but not today." And that was the day that I decided I was going to get angry. And I was not going to let this situation destroy me, my husband, or our future. And so, yes, it's okay to get angry. It's what you do after that, though.
Yeah.
Channel it into something that can motivate you to do something good that can make a difference. And sometimes I get that some people, you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. You might feel like there can't be a light at the end of this tunnel. Um, I understand that. I've been there too. I had to care for my aunt, who I love with all my heart. She was my aunt and my godmother. She lived to be 94 when her colon cancer came back. And a month after my mother passed away, she was immediately in hospice care. And a couple of months after that, she moved in with my husband and I had to care for her, or I got to care for her. And It was really, really difficult. I had to do all the things that you do when someone's in that situation. Um, I got to hold her hand when she took her last breath, and I just remember most of the time thinking I wanted to I felt like I was pouring my love into her life, giving back to her all the love that she had given to me. That's a gift. Everyone doesn't have that. I didn't have that with my mom. She passed away suddenly, unexpectedly. I didn't get that opportunity. And so even though the person you're caring for might be sick, and it may even be a sickness that does eventually lead to death, it's an opportunity. It's still an opportunity there to pour into that person all the love that they've given to you over the years. It's a gift that you give to that person that everybody doesn't have an opportunity or doesn't have the ability to give. I don't know why I was created for this life. I just know that I feel that I feel really I feel empowered in all of this. I feel purposeful. I feel like my life has a meaning and purpose behind it. And so I don't feel like a victim. I actually feel more grateful than anything else that I got to walk with her. And who knows, my husband might outlive me. None of us are promised tomorrow. So I'm giving what I can. I'm loving where I can. And that just makes my life feel so much more wonderful, I think. It's more interesting for sure.
Thanks again, Theresa. It's so good that you made the time to be on this interview today. And we're getting near the end. This has been a great time together. Um, what what final words of advice you would like to have our caregivers know coming from an expert like you?
um, the one thing that every caregiver, no matter where you are in your journey, should do is to find a support group. Everyone needs to find some place where they can get advice, information, where they can vent, and they're everywhere. You can find an online support group. The one I participate in is available every day of the week, 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. You can find virtual support groups, phone support groups. Do something. If you're not in a support group, if you don't have a support system in place, then you're simply working way too hard to try to make it through this by yourself. Find someone who's been a caregiver before, who can mentor you, or at least be a sounding board for you. Caregivers are everywhere. You can listen to a podcast. You can buy a book. One of the books I like is for the caregiver. There's resources and help out there for you if you just look for it. And I know it's kind of hard. You don't have the time to really dig into some of those things, but everybody has a smartphone. Just go to the app and find the podcast app and find a podcast on caregiving. There's like hundreds of them on there, and listen to that every day. And I guarantee you will start to feel a little bit more empowered, a little bit more supported. And that's my
Mm.
advice to everyone.
Thank you. And it's something that through the Maryland Commission on Caregiving, we actually provide a lot of resources through the Area Agency on Aging. We
Yes.
do it across the board. There are so many diverse resources. It could be in your faith community. It could be at a library. It could be anywhere.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that every county in the state of Maryland has a family caregiver support program office. Reach out to that office and ask them for help. They have programs, evidence-based programs to help you to figure this stuff out. We're not born knowing how to do this. And it's hard work. And most caregivers are not only caring for someone, but also working a full-time job or maybe raising their children. So I get that you have a lot going on, and I don't want to forget to mention the importance of self-care. Get your rest. It's a non-negotiable. Get your rest and eat well, healthy foods. I don't always choose the best foods, but certainly when we're in the middle of a crisis situation, the first thing I do is load up on fruits and vegetables and vitamins. I make sure that I stay hydrated through that because it's a traumatic experience. No matter what the outcome is going to be traumatic in your body, you're going to have a physical reaction to what's happening, in your life at that moment. And so you have to do the best you can to take care of yourself. I know it's hard find somebody to hold you accountable to make sure that it gets done.
Strong words, and you really hit that nail on the head. Self-care. And I think that that really is the principle of what being a good caregiver is. Yes, caring for someone else, but also caring for yourself.
Yes, I miss that. So I missed the mark on that so many times in my life because I just thought that I had the because I had the physical stamina. I was a young person, so I could just power through and just keep powering through. But after a while, that's gonna wear on you. You're not gonna be able to keep that up forever. I can't take care of my husband if I can't take care of myself. And I have known caregivers who went on before the person they were caring for because you take them to the doctor, you make sure they take their medication, you make sure they're getting adequate rest. But what about you? After they go to bed, you're up trying to do all the things. And I'm guilty of that sometimes. But I have to have a conversation with myself and remind myself that I have to take care, I have a responsibility to take care of Theresa. And so please find someone who loves you and make them hold you accountable to figure it out. I usually tell people start with 10 minutes. Can you take 10 minutes out of a 24-hour day and say, this 10 minutes belongs to me? And you can do with it whatever you want. Maybe read a book, maybe get some sleep, drink some tea, whatever it is. Start with 10 and try to expand it a little bit every day until you get a nice piece of a little bit of time that belongs to you. Hmm.
Beautiful. That's an amazing way to finish our time together. Before I sign off, any final words?
No, I mean that's it. I'm on a mission just to share my story and to encourage other caregivers. I I want them to know that they're not alone. And I know many people say that. We talked about that before. But the truth is, someone may hear this today who didn't even realize they were a caregiver. It took me many years before I identified as a caregiver. That was just my husband, and I was taking care of him. But now that I know, what this is, I'm able to reach out for resources and help and support. So in my final words, I just want to say that you are not alone. I'm here with you. There are many millions of us around the world. Everyone either is a caregiver, will be a caregiver, will be is being cared for right now, or they've already completed a caregiving journey. But we are all going to be touched by caregiving at some point in our lives. And so it's in our best interest to figure out how we want to approach that season of our lives, and to get the help you need to be successful at it.
Mm. Beautifully said. Thank you. Thank you. So Theresa touched on something that I want to just remind our Montgomery County residents that we do have our Aging and Disability Resource Unit, and that number is 240-777-3000. Even if you don't live in Montgomery County, you can contact us and our staff will help to connect you with caregiver resources in your area. Additionally, I will put the link to the Maryland Commission on Caregiving's website on the description where you found this episode. That has a wealth of resources, particularly to help caregivers in some of the challenges that they're facing. I want to thank Theresa, and I want to thank you for joining us today. It is always wonderful to bring you Engage at Home. And as we leave, I want to remind you to be healthy and to stay calm.